Good evening and greetings of peace and welcome everyone. And welcome to my co-host Sanji or Yogi Sanjivana. My name is Anthea Alexander. I'm a wellness coach and basically Sanji and myself met each other on LinkedIn some months ago, and Sanji asked me if I was interested in co-hosting an event with him, an open conversation. And what we came up with was hosting an open conversation each week on a Friday night at 8 p.m. Everyone is welcome, and we are quite open to discussing any topics as long as people are respectful and gentle with each other. Basically, we've been discussing a number of different topics over the following months, previous months, I should say. And tonight's conversation in our Living Consciously theme, so like our Living Consciously is like the umbrella, and then we have like little themes that we discuss each week that fit into that Living Consciously theme. So tonight's theme is on burnout. And so it's quite a serious topic, and it's something that had some insights earlier this week that I think a lot of people in the world are heading towards burnout, or if they haven't already, if they're not already experiencing it. That's just my personal insights and my personal belief from my observations of the world. And that's really why I wanted to open this discussion to basically to share my experience of burnout that I've experienced in my life and how I've recovered from it, and also to talk about prevention of burnout, what to do, recovery from burnout, so what to do if you do experience burnout, and any other questions or topics that may come up as we're discussing this topic. So just a little bit more about me. I work with people to help them with their health, to lose weight, gain weight, maintain weight, increase energy, any specific health issues. I would love to help people to support them in their to achieve their health goals. That's what I do through basically one-to-one coaching. And I'm also involved in a very supportive community, which supports me to look after my own health, and for the people that are wanting to work with me and wanting to take it a little bit further, I can teach them how to become wellness coaches and how to, and if they're wanting to join this community, there's the opportunity of that as well. I also have a special interest in emotional well-being, and I worked for probably about maybe a couple of years during the pandemic and a little bit before the pandemic. Maybe I had some sense that the world was going to change and this was going to become a really important topic for everyone. So I worked as an emotional wellbeing mentor, and I held a series of workshops online and in person, and also did one-to-one coaching there. So now, after I've said all that, I'll love to hand it over to Sanji so he can introduce himself and tell us about what he does.
Oh, thank you so much, Anthea. So, so as always, it's a great pleasure to be here. And today we are talking about a very sensitive topic, and which has much depth. And I think it at some point we all face, or we had gone through this, kind of similar situations. And in the future, also many people can come across this. So, and about me, like I'm a meditation teacher. We do like spiritual counseling, spiritual mentoring, even life coaching, and we do many charities and all. And so it's great to, like, we are trying to share as much as possible good information, details, to help more and more people. That's why we I met Anthea, and then we discussed, and then we thought, like, why not we leave something wholesome on the internet. So we see a lot of things happening nowadays, and like Anthea mentioned, like the direction all these things are heading is not a very healthy direction. So why not we gather together and present something that is helpful even to generations to come. So, Anthea, this is a wonderful topic, and I think there's so many aspects and regions and areas we have to investigate. So, yeah, over to you.
Okay, thanks for that, Sanji. So first of all, I had a quick look about what burnout is before we've started our conversation. So the World Health Organization talks about occupational burnout and talks about it being job related. And in today's day and age, a job is no it can be defined in so many different ways. So a job is not necessarily being employed by one employer for the whole of your life and working for let's just say 45, 50 years and retiring and then slowing down, and then basically that's not how it works anymore. So when I was when I had finished my university degree in public health and I was entering the workforce, that was the way that it basically worked. A lot of people would get their jobs, become employed by an employer, whether it was the government or working in a hospital or working in a factory, and they would work there their whole life and their whole working career, I should say, and then retire and slow down, perhaps spend more time with their family, and that was the way it worked. But now in today's in our day and age today, a job can be so many different things, and it could be that you have a job for 6 months, or it could be that you have a job for 3 years or 15 years, or it could be that your job's online, it could be that your job's in a physical location, it could be a hybrid mix of both. It could be that you take up like a vocation like Sanji did, to become a monk, and that's an entirely different type of job. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a huge diversity in the definition of what a job is now, and it looks like different things for everybody. So, getting back to burnout, occupational burnout, it is described as a psychological syndrome, and it results from chronic and unmanaged workplace stress. So, I'd like to talk a little bit now about my experience with burnout. So, what happened with me is that I started my career in local governments and I worked for about 12 years. And I remember thinking to myself, when I started my career, I thought this is a really great job and I can learn a lot from it, get some really great skills, but I don't think it's for me for the long term. However, I thought maybe 5 years might be a good amount of time, and then I thought perhaps I need to look at something else. But things happen in life, and things change, and I met my late husband and got married, and we moved from Melbourne, which is down the south of Australia, one of the southern states of Australia, Victoria. And then we moved up to northern Victoria, close to the next state up, which is New South Wales, towards where Sydney is. And I continued working in this area. And I was becoming more and more and more stressed. And I was, I wasn't really aware of it. I can say that. I just kept going because I didn't know what else to do. And over time, I became really, really anxious, and it wasn't normal for me to feel anxious, and I couldn't really put my finger on what I was anxious about. It was like a low-lying anxiety all the time, and then my sleep became very affected, and I went through a period of about 5 weeks without being able to sleep much, and that was really unusual for me because generally I can sleep quite well. So I knew that something was going on, and I went and saw my doctor, discussed it with them. I also consulted a psychologist and spoke with my mum. She's now united with God, as Sanji so eloquently puts it. So she was a very wise lady and a nurse, and she knew me very well. So I discussed it a lot with her, and I resigned from my job. And within a couple of months, I was feeling much better. However, what happened after that was I actually then became very sick with chronic facial pain, which Western medicine, the closest thing that I've reasoned for that is that I contracted some sort of a virus, and that and I believe it was because my immune system was quite low because I'd experienced that chronic stress for so long. I'd got a virus, and then basically it had left me with nerve damage in the nerves in my face. So yeah, long story short, that's been my experience with occupational burnout. But what I'm sensing now in the world is that it's more than occupational burnout now. It's more people are. I just wanted to refer to another definition that I saw online. So it's talking about burnout being when a person reaches a state of total mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. And it's saying that it has some similar signs and symptoms to a nervous breakdown. So that's what I feel like a lot of people are just on the verge, like just say this is the edge of a cliff. People are just standing, they're not sort of going over for the complete mental, physical, emotional exhaustion that is burnout, but they're getting pretty close to it. So that's what I would like to share at the moment. And as always, I would love to hear Sanji's thoughts and wisdom and stories about this topic.
Oh, thank you, Anthea. So yeah, I also experience. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and being very open. Because I think these many people go through this and they don't even know sometimes. And yeah, in different stages, I saw like signs of burnout. It can happen. Yeah, even the definitions they tell these kind of things. There is a difference between stress as well as burnout, and then even depression. No, so uh, but a consistency of a like a regular stress can bring out burnout. No, for example, they have showed in some places like people do like tire burnouts, like the car they start it and they not like to show off, even they do, no, even the bikes or the cars, and it's like, but it's burning, no, it's burning the rubber, it's wearing off the tire, but it's in one place, no. So they do it, some people do it to show off also, but this as the example if you take it, but it's like you are not going anywhere, no, and you're stuck in some place, and it seems very negative. And I saw some places and they are like even uh, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, say your workload or something. Some people are just dissatisfied because it is not recharging them up. Like for example, if you go to a particular job and your qualifications and all are underrated, no, or they don't give you the specific job that you think you are suited for, and that itself maybe even lesser work to do, but that is also can bring an emotional burnout within that person. So within relationships or work ethics or even problematic situations, no, this burnout can occur, but there is a difference between stress and depression also. So in my yeah, journey also as a monk, yeah, we cannot just wait, we have to do so much work. We had to do a lot of physical work also. So I remember there were times we were building a monastery and I would just come home and I would just say like to my parents, or when I was just in my 20s then, and there was nobody else. There was no like elder person there or anything. So I had to learn to take care of everything, but it was so tough. The finances, the people, the interactions, and I was just living in a hut there, and you had to work like day and night. And I would sometimes just come like once a month, or if I felt like it was too overwhelming, I would come and I would just say like come home to my parents or and say like I just want to sleep, no? And they were like looking at me as if I was coming from some concentration camp or something. I was so skinny and like I was like stunned, and I could just sleep, on and on and on, like many hours, and that would kind of like release it. So, and then there was one time like we had a big problem, uh, we had to face, but nothing physical. This was in another place, and some people put us into some difficult situation, which we were not even responsible for that. My goodness, like those days, it was like we were always saying like you felt very bad, and it was so tense, and you had to go and meet this another person who was in a faraway place just to get some support. And these elders were like making life so difficult, and it's a long story. So, but then yeah, just like and they also left like not many options. Either you crawl back to them, or you just let go and you like run away. But luckily, we were like we didn't do none of that. So yeah, like physically as well as mentally also, you go in a loop, and that really drains you. And then it seems like there are not many solutions, and then or there's like so much to do, like this stress or that pressure and all, like really start eating you up. And then later when people come and they put, because if 10 people come, they have 10 ideas or they have 10 expectations. And if you do one mistake, then everything, all you have done goes down the drain. Yeah, so you have to be so many things at once. And my goodness, but over the time, oh, maturity and all that, you counter those things. But there are so many experiences happening at once. Sometimes, like, it's too much. Uh, so when say like this all happening mentally also, and you have to work physically also. So all that piling up at once, and you work all night and day, and like groups of people, and then some people come who have some authority in that, say some donors, no, and they come and say you have to do like this, otherwise we won't be there. My goodness, that takes a total toll on you. And then even the smallest things like really like puts even pressure. So yeah, even people just think, okay, like some clergy or priest or any monks or anything, they are so nice. They just eat and they maybe meditate or just sleep. No, sometimes even they accuse, no, what do you all have to do? You just have to eat and sleep, maybe, no. And but my goodness, there's so much things to do. And and when you start doing projects or some kind of ceremonies or this kind of like there are like the whole ceremony, and you can easily add much more uh, pressure if you start some competition with the other monastery, or if there are other people like who want to have competition with you, and that can even add more and more pressure. But luckily that didn't happen. But yeah, you can easily have. So yeah, yeah, you see, like even that scenario, uh, there's a lot of things happening. So in a work ethic and or workplace, or even in a family, like for the parents especially, or kids sometimes, like they are so pressured by the school system maybe, or by their teachers, or even their parents. So in any case, this can happen, right? And it seems like there's no way out. But we'll talk about ways out also, no? But it's really exhausting, and yeah, it started to turn like very sour, and it's like you are in one place, no? it's like a hamster wheel, like just so. Yeah, there have been a few experience like this was for me also.
So a few things are coming up for me as you're talking about that. And yeah, it's fascinating that even within the monks and creating a monastery, that and I would idealistically think that it would be very peaceful, everybody would speak to each other nicely and respectfully, but it's human nature that
Mhm.
uh, everybody has their own opinions and egos and wants things. And what's coming up for me is expectations from other people and from society. And I know that for me, with the job that I was in, I felt that that was what was expected of me.
Mm.
And I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with the job. I get well paid. It's a respectful job. I have a lot of my own um, authority in the job. I could basically make a lot of my own decisions, and it seemed to tick all the boxes. But within my heart and emotionally, um, it was making me really unwell. Now, there was another thing I was thinking about. I was thinking also about children, because for them, their workplace is school. So, and the education system in different countries can be very, very stressful for children. And not all children, every child is unique and different. And I know that you talk a lot about children and parenting in some of the other conversations and podcasts that Sanji has with other experts. I'm not an expert in that area, but I have my own personal opinions, and that not all children fit into the school system, the education system, and different countries educate children in different ways, and parents can have really high expectations and very set expectations. And I think we've talked about this once before, Sanji, about our parents expecting us to perhaps follow a certain occupation, become a lawyer, engineer, doctor. They're the options you have, you know. If you don't fit in, well, that's, not great. So many pressures from society, our parents, education system, and also ourselves, because we can be really hard on ourselves and have expectations that maybe aren't realistic, and they may not match our characteristics and our qualities and our strengths and who we really are.
Mhm.
And then I think it becomes about learning more about ourselves, becoming more self aware. And there's, I think, self awareness we can talk about. I'd love to talk about it more, um, about in terms of recovery, and also, I think, prevention of burnout. Now, there was something else I was wanting to talk about, but I can't think of it just at the moment. Yes, I can. Come back to me now. All right. So, what bit about. We've talked about the definition of burnout. We've talked a little bit about depression and stress, how they're different to burnout,
Mhm.
and a nervous breakdown is different yet again.
Mhm.
Stress, stress is actually something that's good for us in small doses. The way we were designed is to have a stress response when we're in a jungle and a tiger comes down the path,
Mhm.
so that we get frightened and that we make a decision if we're going to fight the tiger or we're going to run away. However, it's when we get in that situation of chronic stress that is it's not helpful, because it's there all the time, and it sets off different physiological mechanisms in our body and increases our level of cortisol in our body, which is a stress hormone. And that can really it can really affect us. And what I was thinking about was it can affect the way we think. So we might not be able to make as good, clear decisions. We might not be able to think as clearly as normal. It can affect our sleep. It can affect our appetite for food. It can affect a whole range of things. So yeah, it can really have a negative impact on our entire beings, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. So that's what I wanted to share at this stage. Have you got anything you would like to add at this stage, Sanji?
Yeah, like stress and burnout, no? So it can be a result of stress, like you mentioned, no? So but there is a difference, and when it happens, like it becomes too much, no? And too many pressures or demands. So then this affects a person mentally as well as physically. So uh, uh, people want to come back to their senses or like their normal situation, no? But still it feels difficult to uh, come back. So these burnouts can occur any place, anytime, also, and in different time periods of their life. So if we take, for example, depression, or we can talk about the symptoms and all these, then people can really see, whether am I going through that or is it happening to me? And about the monastery, like until it develops, all those stresses are there, especially for the people who like the four founders, no, like who started. Later, it becomes like good for everybody. It's like you plant a garden from scratch, no? So then you need the dirt or the soil, the manure, and all that thing. But somebody has to do it. But later, after that, but it takes a toll on the person or people who are involved in the very beginning. And then, because most places you start from scratch, and then later you never know, like when you go to a garden, you never know who were the original gardeners of that place, what did they do, no? Maybe like nowadays they didn't have the tools or equipment, but still there's a lot of work to be put in, right? So but later it becomes like, okay, you walk in the garden, there are the pathways, there are the benches, no? And so yeah, that is life itself in a way, no? So yeah, coming back to this, and we can see like even a depression, no? Depression, it makes people's minds very dark, and the stress is like continuous, and the negativity. So it can go to very extremes also. Even person wanted to take their lives, right? So it seems like there's a connection with all these, and each has like depression could be like the most extreme of that, and the stress could be like what is it creating all these things, no? And like you said, that some places like it can be very helpful because you need something to be done, or it's a coping mechanism, no? Or it's or evolving process. uh, but then it can slowly shift to things like burnouts, even, or even the worst, like even depression stages, right?
Definitely. So what I'd love to talk a bit more about now is let's talk about prevention of burnout. So I mentioned before about self-awareness. So by knowing ourselves and our strengths and our weaknesses, and being in touch with our inner landscape. And one of our sessions, one of our conversations a few months ago it is on YouTube, both of our YouTube channels. So if you're wanting to have a listen to that, that would probably be very interesting as a foundation or a background to this discussion as well. Is was about, I can't remember the exact title, but it's about basically tuning into your inner landscape and being aware of it. And
Mhm.
because we all have our outer landscape that we can see, which we see, as our reality, the people around us, the earth, the place that we live, the place that we might work or study, or practice our faith, whatever activities that we do. So, but it's about going inwards and getting to know ourselves more intimately, and becoming it's hard to put into words for me at the moment, but having a greater understanding of ourselves, I'll put it as that. So self-awareness, I feel, is really, really key in prevention. And meditation, I believe, is such an amazing practice, and it has so many benefits, but I also believe that it has such an amazing benefit in helping us to sort of reset where we are in life, to really tune us back into nature, connect us into Mother Nature, to slow down our heart rate, our breathing rate, or regulate it, I should say, perhaps not even slow it down, just regulate it, readjust it so that it is healthier for us, and also emotionally and mentally and spiritually. It helps us to, it's hard to put into words, but I think it's really a very amazing practice to prevent burnout in the first place. What would you think about that, Sanji?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we'll talk about this, no? So Anthea, like, what about we talk about like symptoms and what are the causes, and then this is a great place you brought everything to, and then we cover the last part, like how to counter these measures. So symptom wise, we can say like people feel drained, exhausted, weak, no, and having very low energy. They can eat a lot, or but still they feel like low energy, and or motivation. The mood is very low, and then some people feel isolated, even in office. Like they can feel trapped, or no, and then how to say, and or the job satisfaction or whatever we are doing. There's no satisfaction in that, right? So like a child, no, like when the parents say again and again, you are not good enough, they try to like please, no, the parents, but still it seems like a, like the tire, like loops, going in loops, and it's just like it's not moving anywhere. So and then we can say like procrastinating, no, and people, and then some people I also remember, like sometimes with the slightest thing you can be very irritated, because you sometimes you don't know, you are so stressed, or like or even burned out, you just maybe want to go and sleep, maybe, no, not your, like you are able to get up the next day and do, but at that time you just want to stop everything, or no, and then if somebody comes and says some good something, even it seems like a bother, no. So not that you are in a state of depression or something, but you like, it's like, okay, I had enough for today, or this time period. And even some people feel migraine or headaches or body pains. Uh, so yeah, please, and definitely what you say, like sleep deprivation, no, or they cannot sleep. So like you said, like one thing we can see, like we feel, even if we can work very hard and we can fall asleep no easily, but here it is not the case. You are tired, exhausted, but you cannot sleep, right? What are your ideas on those, Anthea?
Yeah, I think that they're all very relevant, and relevant signs and symptoms that something is going on, something's not quite right. And yeah, um, and I guess it can be a little bit tricky because they can be quite subtle. So
Mhm.
you might not pick them up, and then might continue on in that cycle. So in terms of signs and symptoms, I think that also feeling perhaps on high alert all the time,
Okay.
that tunes in, that ties in with the not being able to sleep. So
Mhm.
I remember that I was continuously thinking about things I had to do
Mhm.
and worrying about things I had to do. But as you talked about, like you're getting into like this mental loop that it's not productive, it's not helpful.
Mm.
It's just like worrying constantly about what's going on, and it's not helpful for anything. Uh, but yeah, I guess it's a coping mechanism of how our brains and our bodies try and cope. Uh, I would also like to mention anxiety as well, because I think anxiety can definitely be a sign of burnout,
Mhm.
and that anxiety and depression, although they're different, they can actually tie in with each other. So that's something also to be aware of.
Mhm.
Uh, so I guess what I would recommend to anybody who feels like they're experiencing some symptoms that they're a little bit concerned about, to talk to a doctor, to talk to a trusted friend, to
Mhm.
talk to a counselor or a psychologist or a psychotherapist, to discuss their symptoms. So I think that's a key message about what I'm wanting to share with people: to don't suffer in silence. Talk
Mhm.
to other people about what's going on. Mm.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, then we can see like what are the kind of like major causes, or like most common causes that can bring up uh, burnout, right? So, yeah, in work related situations, we can see like uh, usually that is the case now, like in a job place and all, there's somebody above you, and if that person is also not in good how to say terms, then it becomes even more tougher, no? And this is this is lesser than the things like we are talking about abuse and all in different aspects that can be even more horrifying, no? So it happens in workplaces also. And when you feel like you have no control in the sense like on what your task is, no? So but think like of people like slave labor and all these things, no? How it must be, cannot imagine. This is like a normal, like in a civilized way place, no? But still people can go, but those places they have no say at all, right? So how much trauma, how much damage it can cause, right? So even children are put into these kind of situations. So how must they feel, no? So that's another whole, my God, unless you get like even thinking of that makes your like mind become heavy or the head becomes heavy, right? And yeah, lack of recognition, no rewarding. I remember there were people in good places also, like very prestigious organizations or companies, and this person was so stressed, and they had a well, good profession and everything seemed very well. Their family situation and all, no external, no psychological disorders or anything, but the stress was too much, and there were people like stopping this person's progress, and just because of sometimes just jealousy. I remember there was a like a supervisor, and this person also was in the like the executive range in a big company. Yeah? So I don't want to name companies or anything, but yeah, then the actually this person was handling a lot of things, and the boss was a lady, and both the ladies, and uh, but actually this lady was covering most of the things. But then there was a vacancy for a promotion which would have been higher than this boss of a department or no that area. So she held it. She didn't tell her the details, or like she was putting her application or like down or not giving it in the specific time, because she was afraid that this lady would go above her and then she will have to get the instructions from her. So yeah, it's like so there was so much stress, frustration, and all these things involved. And finally, she retired also, but with a good in a good way, and we were able to like cope for some many months to come with that situation also. And yeah, and sometimes. Some, yeah, it says like some people need the challenge, but when the challenge is not there, also they become burned out. Because they expect that. And I remember there was another lady from another place and a country. She had lot of qualifications, but she was put into a very like a very simple, because it was a new job. But she had lot of trouble coping up with it because she had so much experience and their talent and all. But it was like she was put into a person like a newcomer's place, and it was so difficult for her, and she felt like a violation, no, of respect and all these things. uh, so and the other thing is like some people working in high pressure situations. So think like people like firefighters, doctors, or like even people who work in the oil rigs and all these places, how much pressure they must be having, right? So yeah, so life causes also can bring lifestyle situations. Some people they work so much. There's no, like they call them workaholics, right? They just work, 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 work. They don't think, and it's like one way train, no? So and then some people they don't have the proper support, maybe like of somebody close, or no, they seem isolated. So now modern society, we can see more and more isolation happening. We think we talk about high tech and all this, but actually we are losing the human touch or the connection, right? Those days there was a bunch of people maybe within your family or around you. You could just say something, no, or they would come to your support. But now they say like ancient times, and they are to do some roofing, you just have to make a sound only. You climb onto the roof and just like make a hoot like sound, and then people would just, oh, like somebody's doing something, let's go and help it. And the same happens, but to other people also. They know, okay, like this is something is happening, let's go there. But now, if you want, they might take it to a psychiatric ward or something. No? And or just they might just take some photos and post it, or like a video on some platform, right? So see the disconnect and all we are going through. So just those days, if just somebody would climb onto the roof and let's make like a whoo, like sound, they will know, okay, something's happening, and this as an emergency also, as well as now sometimes we are just confronted to our walls or our gates or the fences, and nobody wants to even even if it's an emergency, people don't want to get involved. So lack of relationships or supportive, and then too much responsibilities in especially life, like parents, and usually they don't sometimes talk about males or fathers, no. uh, so I think they have like a lot of pressure, they don't want to show it also, and that's why some people even become suicidal. Because when they are, if it's a good father, no, not that mothers are also going through so much things, no. But usually we don't talk about the male side. But you meet people, and when especially in sessions and all, and it's like it doesn't seem manly to talk about these things in open, and actually they are condemned for that. So they have to keep lot of things inside. But uh, yeah, sometimes they lose it, or they go for addictions, or no, some people just walk away, uh, but yeah, for ladies also it's the same thing. Uh, and if somebody wants, like, is a high achiever, they want to they want to reach all this, the highest. So when that achievement also doesn't happen, so these are like yeah, uh, how to say, like, and not getting proper sleep. That's also a thing, no? Then you feel burned out, or you like feel like a drunkard, no? Because after some days you can do it for some time, but later it's like, okay, this is happening, no? There's an impact on ourselves, and yeah, so yeah, sometimes being pessimistic, that also happens. or the negative flows we feel, or we see some idealization in some place and we want to be there when that doesn't happen. And some people, yeah, in life patterns also, they always want to be controlling, no? uh, Even some places they call like backseat drivers, either male or female, no? But yeah, like it is like irritating in a sense, and sometimes it's not tolerated also. And the worst is the person who tries to do the backseat driving can be affected. It could be your mom or your father, no? And and the children are now grown up. So or it could be the husband or the wife, no? So any place. But there are some people like in workplaces or as children, they always want the control. So that is also one aspect. But the worst is they get burnt out, and it can fall into addictions or depression, these kind of situations also, no? And yeah, yeah, these are like these are the things we can come across as reasons. What do you think, like, Anthea, the reasons people go through all these things?
Yeah, I think that what you're talking about is really helpful because it can help people to perhaps recognize and be aware if they're starting to experience any of these things. Because I think that in our lives, when we go through experiences, we're so close to ourselves that we can't see what we're doing from a perspective.
Mhm.
However, people that are a little bit further away from us can. And that's why it's really valuable to talk to other people because they'll be able to see if you're behaving a little bit in a little bit of an unusual way for your personality or what they know about you. So I think that that's where it's really, really important to talk to people about how you're feeling. And I agree totally with you. And I've just realized something very special about you is that you talk about feelings and you're a male because a lot of men don't talk about their feelings. They're weak or that they're failing or that they're, not being the leader of the household. And that's really, really sad because how they must feel very, very lonely and isolated. And I think it's really, really sad that people and potentially other men and maybe, well, even other women just expect them to go about and do their jobs and cope with pressure. And men are not machines. They can't, they have feelings and emotions and they really do need it's healthy for everybody to talk about what's going on for them and hopefully, that with a trusted person. But if people don't have friends or they are isolated or lonely or they might be surrounded by people that they can't trust. And that would be really, really sad. I think as a woman, I've noted in my experience that women tend to talk more about their feelings with their friends.
Mhm.
And it's in that where it's more normalized, it's maybe more encouraged. It's not seen as weak for women to talk about their emotions.
Mhm.
So yeah, what you're talking about is really, really relevant. Mm,
Mhm. Yeah, maybe I'll share. Like there was a song also about it, and
yeah.
people don't talk about it, no? So it's like being a man, I think. And so actually, it was a song, and then also, and in the sessions usually, and we also openly don't talk. But I want to bring that topic up. It's not like some movement or something like that. Just like because people are going through so much pressure. And there was one time, a a lady, a young lady, she dressed up as a man, uh, and she did like a social experiment, and she tried to approach like on dates, like, and she said, oh my goodness, like how many times she was rejected, and she said, I hate being a man, and it's so difficult. And then there was another seminar, it seems like uh, uh, they were telling like people to talk about it, and a father had approached this lady who was doing the and she was talking about all these situations and all. And the father had commented like, "Okay, I understand what you are talking about, but these are all like not men related, no? The reports or the complaints or all these abuse scenarios. These are all not men's things, no? Like what? So and he had told like if I tell I have two or three daughters or two daughters and my wife, at some point, if I tell what's really going in my mind, uh, they all their respect would just die. I would die better than telling what is really going inside myself." And from that, this was a brilliant lady. She was like some lecturer or some like, and from that time, she had understood. The way of thinking was started suddenly changing, and they she started doing research. It seems, and then the seminars and all. She tried to combine both aspects from both sides later on. So yeah, I just want to bring it up, not to make like a movement or something, no, but because relationships and all, or friendships, work ethics, or everybody coexist. No, now luckily those differentiations are lesser and lesser than before. The discriminations and all these things, no. So and ladies are doing very well in society, no. So those movements and all are, some people are trying to twist it even to more directions, but the real people who started the movements for women's rights and all, like I think there's a lot of justice for what they started, no, nowadays. They are not just confronted to the some place or like treated like slaves in most places, no. So yeah, and yeah, these yeah, just I just wanted to put touch that. Yeah, we also still cannot like always be cry about it or anything like that. But I'm just bringing out because people come into contact and then within the sessions, and surely you will also meet people like that, no? And it is still it cannot be openly talked about. Even there are like there were within the young generation, and they go and ask like, what if your boyfriend or a significant other comes and start telling you, or see, these people say I will lose my respect because uh, it's kind of like still in 2025. It's not the thing like supposed to, no. So now we can talk about prevention. About so Anthea, please, I know you did research and through personal experiences and being a nurse, no, you met so many people, and they say actually like caretaking that side brings lot of pressure, and people can really get burnt out. So please, like, what would be like the good ways of prevention?
So thank you for reminding me about my carer role. So I was the primary carer for my mother for 4 years.
Mhm,
And before that, I also cared for my husband when he had cancer.
mhm,
And so for a number of years, I really was beside him and attending appointments with him and, sort of listening to what the doctors and the specialists were telling him.
mhm,
And I did this for my mother because I think when people are unwell and they are experiencing a lot of stress again through illness
mhm,
in this case, they might not remember what doctors tell them. So I was able to be like a little bit distanced from it, and I was able to take notes and then discuss it with my mother and my husband
mhm,
further down the track out of the appointment. So, and yes, and I know this is something that you're doing at the moment for your parents as well.
mhm,
And I would say that it is the hardest job I've ever done.
mhm,
I haven't been a mother. I haven't been blessed to have children, or maybe I was blessed with not having children. I don't know, but it
mhm,
wasn't God's plan for me to give birth to children. But I use my nurturing and maternal instincts to care for people in different ways. And certainly caring, nursing my mother and my husband was another way that I could express that. But yes, it was the most challenging role I've ever done, because basically I was in charge, I was making the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a bit lonely and isolated. So it was very important for me to talk to other people. I saw a psychotherapist regularly throughout those periods so that I could discuss my feelings, and this could be another whole topic, so I won't get into it too
Sure.
much. But in terms of prevention, I think it's really important to associate with positive people.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation, mindfulness,
Sure.
maybe gentle exercise, or maybe even more vigorous exercise. Whatever is right for your body and your personality type. Uh, what else did I want to say about that? Yeah, I think, and self-compassion. We talked about that. Oh, sorry, no, I didn't talk about self-compassion. I talked about self-awareness. So I think
Mm-hmm.
self-compassion, being kind and gentle and loving with ourselves, is really, really important in the prevention of reaching that, level where we're so exhausted mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what do you think about that, Sanji?
Yeah, yeah. They talk about like a shock absorber, right? So the shock absorber actually takes the weight of the vehicle and the ruggedness of the road, even, right? And more better the quality of the shock absorber, the better, right? It's in a way it feels like or like it's a uh, you put the shock absorber in a very difficult stage, but because of that, it's enduring from all sides, even no. So likewise, our mind, like you said, through these practices, we can train our mind, and sometimes in some professions and all, actually they are put into difficult situations to cope up. Then they can do some extraordinary things. For example, what the field you are working, right? So you are trained, so in a way you won't panic in that time, or our emotions, or no, even seeing maybe things like blood or something, or some very drastic scenario would not. And we can be professional and try to help the people and save lives even, right? So but in a day-to-day basis, like, yeah, so contemplation, affirmations, and mindfulness, they are very good ways. And being content uh, for what you are, and understanding, accepting, these are very good places we can start, like as guarding mechanisms. And even if you like do charity work and all, not you're not discriminating nobody, but you realize, my goodness, like with these things, like we were talking about slave labor or something. Yeah. And then when you realize, like that scenario, and what maybe we had to go at some point, like we were not forced to do those things, right? Not at like gunpoint or somebody's whipping us to do it, right? So but then you realize, like, my goodness, how lucky we are. uh, but that doesn't mean you have to limit what you do, no, what your capabilities are, but at least not to get to these cycles of burning out, or even depression cycles, no, or stress cycles, or getting stressed even in the first place, no. And you can relax, and having breaks within these time periods. Now they talk a lot about work life balance. So yeah, these are like we can do add to our lives, to make a buffer zone, or like be resistant to these kind of things, no.
Yeah, I love what you shared there. And it feels very protective to me. So it's like we're creating a buffer zone or a protective shield around ourselves so that we are protected from, reaching those stages. So, and I think that that's really what living consciously is about. When I think about living consciously, it's about being mindful, affirmations, meditation, contemplation, as you said, and the other practices that you mentioned, they're all very protective mechanisms. In terms of recovery, what I would like to share is that through my experience, recovery is definitely possible. So don't feel that you're going to be stuck being burnt out forever, because you can recover. And what my experience was that after a period of chronic stress, I recovered quite quickly within a few months. And then my situation perhaps was a little bit different, because I did then get a contract a virus and was left with nerve pain. That's chronic pain is a different sort of a topic that we could discuss another time. But it is definitely possible to recover and to live a full life. And perhaps it might even be a blessing in disguise, or a hidden blessing, that we do experience burnout, because it encourages us to contemplate and reflect on our lives and the journey that we're on, and the path that we're headed, so that we can adjust our path to better suit who we are and where we're wanting to end up. What do you
Mhm.
think?
Yeah, yeah, surely, yeah. And I read about a 3R approach, which is nice actually. Yeah, it is surely you know this now. And then they say recognize, reverse, and resilience. It's very nice, no? You recognize people don't recognize you, right? And then you reverse the process, huh? And you see whether the warning signs are there, like we discussed the symptoms and all. Then the other one, like we said, like build resilience for this, right? So, and then I'll just point out some things I also gathered. Like they say, turn to other people who are wholesome, like you mentioned in the very first part, like good people, good, like how to say, colleagues, or some people you can talk with openly, uh, and then who are supportive, and then it says like there's so much detail about that. Even the power of giving, when you start doing that, like, because these are all mostly self-centered things now we were talking, and that makes the burning out process happens. But when you start giving outwards, actually it's like not, we have to let go of ourselves. So actually a power of giving plays a huge role in not falling into burnouts or depression or stress even that way, because you feel so fulfilled, no, you help somebody sometimes the whole day. Maybe that was the only thing you can be happy about sometimes, no. There are many things, but this can stand out or from all those things, no. What we do or what we did most could be like, or every day we do this, no. So and yeah, they say like reframe the way we look at things. Uh, so reframe it, no, reframe it. Than just the negative, or yeah, in a without the negative aspect of it, uh, without being pessimistic also, no. Okay, if this is the work I have to do now, this is what I have to go to. Maybe lesser work, maybe see the bright side of that. Oh, I can finish it so easily. Then I have more time to do what I like here. So we can do, no? And then they say like reevaluate your priorities. Because some people, like we were talking, the reasons also, no? Or then they have all these high expectations, goals, and all within ourselves also. And there was another some, yeah, uh, yeah, boost your ability to stay on start, do the task. There are many details within that also, and like you said, make exercise a priority in life, because that will change many things and take you off that working pattern or problematic situation. You can, like you said, like do less, or even more, right? Some people, and this is a reason for burnouts even, like they need some more adrenaline power, something to be hyped, no. So they can use exercise and these kind of things to become the get the charge they need, no. So yeah, there are some people after even work they can just run for miles, really, after exhausting day. They are so they have a lot of energy, so And even if it's a rage or something, like through exercise, you can put it out rather than putting it out on somebody else, no? And healthy diet also, they say. Yeah, no? I think you can elaborate on that, Anthea, more.
Healthy diet's really, really important for our mind, our body, our emotions, our spirit. So it's not just for our physical body, it helps
Mhm.
us with mental clarity, it helps us with emotional balance. And yes, spiritually, I believe that it really helps us with that. So nutrition, definitely. That was something that I thought of before, but I
Mhm.
forgot. So
Yeah.
I'm so pleased that you reminded me.
So, what are the types of foods and all that are good for like reducing stress, like these kind of situations, burnouts and all?
So drinking plenty of water,
Uh-huh.
some vegetables, fruits, so whole food eating, good sources of protein,
Mm-hmm.
um, healthy fats.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I say? And then it becomes more holistic. So the things that we've been talking about: exercise, sleep,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then bringing in mindfulness, contemplation, meditation. Yeah, all of those things. And also that having positive people around you, whether it's your family, colleagues, friends, even pets, animals,
Mm-hmm.
can
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
help.
Yeah.
Spending time in nature can be really, really
Okay.
helpful. Certainly for recovering for burnout, as far as I'm concerned, from my
Mm.
experience.
And avoiding bad habits also. No, sometimes person thinks like smoking can reduce stress, but actually it increases. And the worst part is like when you start breaking off that habit, it becomes even worse. No, or alcohol, drugs for sure. So people tend to go to that direction to start forgetting things or think like it can be a booster, but no, it's not the case, right?
No, I don't think so. I have drunk alcohol in the past, and I just made the decision probably about 14 or 15 years ago that no more. It's not good for me. It's basically poison. That's
Mhm.
my personal decision. If people choose to drink alcohol, that's up to them. But
Mm.
for me, it did more harm than good.
Mm.
And I also smoked cigarettes for a few years from when I was about 18 till about 23. And then I met my late husband, and he was a very strict non smoker. So I gave up cigarettes, and I'm so pleased I did
Mhm.
because, um, yeah, it's about preventing problems happening. So, and I understand that we're all human beings, and we all, I'm not judging people if they drink or they take
Mhm.
drugs or they smoke or whatever they might do to cope. But um, I think it's about really practicing self love, and that means doing what's going to be kind for ourselves, supportive for ourselves, and some habits and addictions even are more destructive than they are supportive. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we want to be supportive about ourselves, and by supporting ourselves, we can then support other people. Because if we're struggling and we're not well ourselves, we can't help anybody else.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, perfect. So, okay, yeah, with that in mind, and let's wrap it up for today. So, yeah, I think we covered a lot of places, and there are so many people, three places where people also can research and do investigations. Uh, and we are also always ready to help anybody. We'll be putting Anthea's contacts and all these details in the post as well as on the videos also. So, people can come in contact. So, and thank you so much, Anthea. It was a great pleasure as always, and for selecting these topics also, which are very sensitive and actually should be addressed. No, so and thank you everybody for, and even the people who will be watching this later on. And please feel free to comment or any questions or something. We'll try our very best to address them. and help as much as many people as possible.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Sandy. As always, it's a pleasure and an honor to discuss things with you. And it always is very helpful and healing for me as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah?
Good night.
Okay,
Goodbye.
good night. See you.